Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel and the coach Bob Shipley. Time to give out our grades for a 52-37 win for the Texas Longhorns over the Arkansas Razorbacks. This edition of On Texas Football is brought to you by our friends at Allegiant Digital Marketing. Did you know that among the top 9 challenges business owners face, the most difficult ones include finding customers, increasing brand awareness, digital advertising, and lead generation? What if I could point you to a local homegrown agency here in Austin that can solve all of those problems for your business once and for all? For over 25 years, Allegiant Digital Marketing founder and CEO Chad Markham, he's a UT grad and instructor of the Digital Marketing Boot Camp at UT Austin, has helped thousands of businesses overcome these challenges. Take advantage of their Hook 'em Horn special and save up to $2,500 in advertising. Just visit allegiantdigital.com/ontexasfootball. Again, that's allegiantdigital.com/ontexasfootball to learn more today. Coach, I'll start with you. We'll start with the grades on offense, and it doesn't get much better than Arch Manning, even with some drops by the receivers. 18 for 33. Coach, I joked during the watch along that he was going to throw for 4 bills, and he dang near got there. 389, throws for 4 touchdowns, runs for 1, catches another. Your grade for Arch and the quarterbacks today, Coach?
Well, that's pretty obvious. It's an A+ for me. He just keeps getting better and better. We felt like, a lot of us felt like last week may have been his best game, of his career. Then he follows it up this week with a really gutsy performance, running the ball, catching the ball, throwing the ball. He did have some pretty bad off-target throws, a couple that I can think of. I think maybe another one maybe got tipped. But anyway, A+, great effort. You can win with effort like that every week.
CJ, what say you?
Yeah, I'm with Coach. I think it's an A for me. Arch mentioned post game. He's excited to go watch the tape to find exactly what he didn't necessarily utilize. There's still some throws, to your point, Coach, that I think got away from Arch. But you said a career high, 389 passing yards, 6 total touchdowns. You run for 1, you receive 1, and you throw for 4. Not going to find many complaints over here. I thought that was the best performance collectively of Arch's career. It was fantastic, and Texas desperately needed that to bounce back offensively, momentum-wise, and psychologically-wise after the Georgia outing.
I'm going to side with Coach and go the A+ for 2 reasons. One, you're a quarterback and you catch a touchdown and look athletic doing it. That's a bonus point. And that touchdown he had to DeAndre Moore in the third quarter where he spins out of pressure. It's one of those plays Brett Favre used to make all the time. Romo used to make them all the time. You're going, no. And then he throws across his body against the grain, threads it between 2 guys, the guy in the back of the end zone, and you're like, all right, good job. I mean, it's the special ones can make those.
Little luck involved in that too. Went right through a defender's hands.
No doubt. But we'll take it. We'll take it for the Texas quarterbacks. CJ, I'll start with you on the running backs. We talked about the run game on the quick reacts, and it was just kind of there. Texas finishes 28 for 97, and the Arch Manning touchdown. Longest run today was a 12-yarder by Trey Wisner. The running backs go 91 yards on 22 carries. I mean, in theory, that's the kind of balance you need from that position. But CJ, what do you think of the running backs in this game?
Yeah, it's probably a C+, B-. Why don't Jeff? We talked about it in the reactions last night, and I think it still holds true. Having watch some more of the runs. They're just there, right? They're just kind of a part of the game. They're not a part of them that you can win the game with. They're not probably a part where you're detrimentally going to lose the game with them. They're just there. And look, Arkansas is the 116th ranked team in the country in run defense coming into the game, and Texas is just a smidge over 4 yards per carry with their running backs. And it's not going to be any better this year, right? They're not going to magically solve it in a short week against A&M. That's just who this team is when it comes to running the football, and that's unfortunate because I think that they have guys that schematically you'd think it would fit, but they don't necessarily have cohesion right now up front. And it's basically a lost year for me with this running game. So, look, 90 yards with the running backs tonight, that's great. That's more than we can say for past weeks, but probably a C+, B- for me.
Yeah, Coach, I think I'm with CJ. C+ was what I was initially thinking. Again, your most explosive run is a 12-yarder by Trey Wisner. Just not getting a lot of – Coach, I think actually you brought this up on the watch-along. Arkansas has given up about 180 yards on the ground. Texas is the only FBS team Arkansas has played this year that's failed to rush for for 100 yards in a game. You came up 3 yards short. But, Coach, what say you on the run game?
Yeah, it's a C+ for me. I think if we would have had more explosive plays from those guys, it might be a B-. But again, just average. I don't see anything spectacular that our guys did. But it's a C+ for me. I thought about a B-, but I just can't do it against a team that has the run defense that Arkansas has. It's a C+ for me for the running backs.
Yeah, and CJ, I'll follow up. Even the bads, there was a couple bad plays, but Baxter fell on his own fumble. They tried to run a wildcat on the goal line, which we haven't seen this year. And then Arch runs it in the next play, and then Wisner had the 4-yard loss, but the game was Matthew Caldwell's in at quarterback. The game's already out of hand at that point, so it's kind of a wash either way. Do you have something, CJ?
Yeah, the run game for me, and again, it's frustrating because I'm sitting there entering the fourth quarter, looking at the running game numbers, and your longest run is 7 yards. And I remember sitting in the box watching the game and saying, "Ooh, that was a good run," and I would see the chains move by 4 yards. I'm like, well, that's kind of where we're at with this running game. Is a good run is what you should be expecting, right? That's where I'm at. So I'm conditioned to see a play reach the second level. It's like, oh, hey, they did it, right? It's become that this year. But, you had your 2 longest runs of the night came in the fourth quarter in garbage time. It just wasn't necessarily effective. It's a C+ for me. I'm bumping it down a letter.
All right. Coach, I like starting with you on the receivers. And, hey, we can even throw the tight ends there. Jack Injuries goes 2 for 49. And, Coach, unlike the Georgia game where Ryan Wingo gobbled up a lion's share of the targets, he had 6 in this game, but he turned those into 6 catches for 81 yards. But, Mosley 4 for 81, Moore 3 for 74 and 3 touchdowns, Livingston 2 for 104 and a touchdown. Coach, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, other than Parker Livingston still probably not getting enough targets for your liking, it was a much better day for the receivers than we've seen in a while.
Yeah. Excuse me. It was. I gave him an A-. I feel like the tight ends helped that grade. But we didn't have any just horribly dropped balls like we've had. We had certainly, I think, more misfires from the quarterback than we had, just drop catches from the receivers. Solid job by those guys today. I like the way that they're involved, keeping Mosley involved in the game. And also, Parker Livingston just adds a whole nother dimension to your offense. And he can beat you deep. He can beat you over the middle. He can beat you in a lot of ways. And it's good to see him kind of getting back into the action and getting more targets this game.
CJ, we talked about it a little bit on the quick reaction. Ryan Wingo's kind of your quick game, your screen guy. Just get it to him in space. Let him be your yak guy. Livingston, obviously, you're going deep over the top. This group is at its best, though, when you're hitting those intermediate routes to DeAndre Moore and Emmett Mosley. Those guys are really the guys doing the bulk of the damage in that intermediate game.
And I feel like that's what Texas has been missing this year, right? It feels like it's either the short, quick game that extends into a big game, or it's, hey, we just got to huck it deep. Arch hasn't been great to your point in the intermediate, but the inclusion and really the prioritization of a DeAndre Moore is so valuable to me for that exact reason, because teams know Ryan Wingo is going to get 10 targets a game. Teams know if Parker Livingston's in the game, they're going to find him deep. It's DeAndre Moore that gives you the versatility in the intermediate. You can throw a quick screen to him, right? This is a guy that can go deep in the slot fade. We saw that tonight. And I think there's more value in the versatility with Moore than just about anybody else on this wide receiving room. Not to say that he's the most valuable or best player, but the way that you have to scheme against him, I think, poses more issues for defenses in that regard. But altogether, it was probably a B+ for me. I thought Mosley should have came down with a 3rd down conversion. I thought Livingston should have caught that ball deep down the field. Look, I thought early on, I was saying, man, they're just going to drop more and more passes again this week. But, hey, altogether, it's a solid showing. B+ right there, A-. But I'll stick with the B+ for now, Jeff.
Yeah, I'll go with the B+ too. Coach, I do like the fact, though, Jack Injuries, we haven't seen him involved maybe near as much as we thought he would be. But 2 for 49, and he had 6 targets. I mean, that's one of the more productive days, and just in terms of trying to funnel production his way that we've seen this season.
Yeah, that's true, and that's good to see, because we're certainly going to have that next week. But DeAndre Moore, 3 touchdown catches, came up big when he had to come up, and he and Parker Livingston, CJ, as you mentioned, He's he's kind of the missing link that we've been missing in this offense. Certainly DeAndre Moore and Parker Livingston came through tonight. I feel like and really shored up a good offensive performance by our receivers and tight ends.
CJ Arch had to make some things happen in the pocket, but as we go to the offensive line, 2 home games against SEC opponents, 2 games where 0 sacks allowed by the offensive line, 2 TFLs. And like I said, one of those was a Trey Wisner TFL where the game was well decided at that point. What did you think of the offensive line in this one, CJ?
Yeah, I thought they did well. This was a good game for them, and I think you could probably have the conversation that this offensive line at home is significantly different than what it is on the road, right? You mentioned that Vanderbilt game. There's been 3 tackles for loss combined in those 2 games, 0 sacks. And look, they're not world beaters up front, but Texas has played some other teams that aren't world beaters in anything and look very bad with the offensive line. So I think playing at home is obviously very important. Next week, it's going to be even more important playing Texas A&M. But they did well. Look, the running game is what it is. We covered that. But altogether, when there's a pocket for Arch Manning, and I thought we saw that pretty consistently Saturday night, he's fantastic. Those wide receivers will get open, and Arch Manning does just enough to get the ball where it needs to go in a timely manner. It's all about getting a clean pocket. They did that this evening. B+ for me on the offensive line.
Coach, my initial reaction for the offensive line grade was a solid B. One other thing to consider here, Texas 4 trips to the red zone, 4 touchdowns, get 20 points. And actually Arkansas had been one of the better defenses in SEC play in terms of touchdown rate in the red zone. So Texas got it done inside the 20. Coach, I want to let you convince me if my grade of a solid B should be higher.
No, I'm right with you. I graded him a solid B myself. Again, look at the running game against who you're playing against. It's just not up to par yet. And there were a lot of times that Arch was able to make throws because he was able to get out of harm's way, and do that fairly effectively. So better. I mean, it's better. I'm not complaining from, I've seen much worse performance many games by our offensive line. But it's a solid B for me. But let's not get carried away. It is what it is.
That's a good point.
I think we've learned our lesson this year, Coach, on getting carried away with the offensive line. So kind of like our Arches. Hey, you're going to go AA+. Hey, I'll take it. It was a winning performance on the O-line. Offense overall, Coach. I'll start with you. We've got everything from a C+ to the running backs, A+ to the quarterback. What's your grade for the offense in this one?
Yeah, I think a solid B. I think it's a solid B. Maybe a B+. I'm right in that area. I think, anytime you go into a game, you have 490 yards offense, and you have a quarterback the first time in school history to score a touchdown 3 different ways. That's kind of exciting, but not probably the effort we're going to have to, obviously to beat Texas A&M, but considering where we've been from, I think it's a pretty solid B for me.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned something in there a couple of times. Consider the opponent you're playing. The Arkansas defense was awful, but CJ, they still had to go out and execute. Again, 4 for 4 in the red zone, 8 for 12 on 3rd down. I go B+ on the grade for the offense. What's your grade, CJ?
Yeah, I'm going with an A-. I'm a little surprised. We're hearing some B's here, but I get it, right? Consider the opponent. That's a bad defense. One of the worst. I even tweeted out in the middle of it, where are the worst SEC defenses that the conference has ever seen, and how does 2025 Arkansas stack up? But they still have to go make the plays, right? And to score on 7 of your first 9 offensive possessions, to put 45 points on the board. You mentioned 8 of 12 on 3rd downs. Look, 0 turnovers. That's still SEC level, right? But they put their pants on the same way Texas does, right? These are, Division I caliber football players that I thought Texas made them look pretty silly this evening. So all in all, you put 40 points on the board against anybody in the SEC. That is a quality night. We've seen Texas put up much worse performances against similar talent this year. I liked what I saw from the Texas offense.
CJ, you convinced me to change my grade. I'm going A-, and the reason why, you said something there, no turnovers. Didn't turn the ball over. The one time you came close, Baxter put it on the ground on the goal line, like I said, but he fell on it. Arch scored the next play. And you got 14 points off turnovers tonight. One of those was the LaFau fumble return, but you scored off the Jelani McDonald interception. Coach, this offense hadn't done a ton of that. That's complimentary football, Coach. We saw it for a little bit. It's been few and far between, but we saw it there in the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But you got to realize this is a team that hadn't won a conference game since October 26th of 2024. So
that's why we love having you on Grades, Coach. Is keeping it real, and keeping it real does not go wrong with you, Coach Shipley, having you on the show. CJ, let's go to the defense. Defensive line, Texas. Colin Simmons gets the sack late, 4 tackles for loss. But man, the first half defending the run, that CJ, that was about as bad as I've seen the Texas defense look in a very, very long time.
Yeah, I think Arkansas was 9.5 yards per rush in the first half. They were over 150 yards rushing, and it's very fortunate that Texas was able to extend the lead to 4, get the ball after halftime, extend the lead to 11, and then kind of flip that into an 18-point lead. Because look, if Arkansas sticks with the run, I don't know if Texas stops them. They might have run for 250, 300 yards, and that's not something that I really anticipated, right? I knew that Arkansas coming into the day was a fantastic first half run team. They were the second best in the entire country, actually. I didn't think Texas would give up as many explosives as we saw tonight. Tackling in space, an issue. Containment on the edge for the quarterback and the running game, an issue. It was bad. They were able to, off the bat, what is a 41-yard run first play of the game? That's a big issue. And Texas A&M, with a better offensive line, very similar level of running backs, a quarterback just as talented as Taylor Green. Look, I didn't like what I saw tonight. And again, if you allow Texas A&M to play that complementary style of get the ball to those speedy wide receivers and then, we can also run for 10 yards a pop on the ground, that's a big issue, man. And I didn't like any of it. Colin had the strip sack. That's fantastic. Probably a C-. Lowest of the year for me on the team.
I think it's going to be that way for all of us, Coach. C- is honest. C- is kind of what I was thinking there, because we saw some good from the D-line, but I guess when it was good, it was really good. But, Coach, when it was bad, it was, again, as bad as we've seen it in a long time.
Yeah, you give up 188 yards rushing and over 500 yards offense. We've got a problem. Obviously, our defense played much better in the second half. A first half grade is second half grade, or there's some difference in that. Overall, for me, it's a C. But we've still got problems, and we talk. And that's an issue. That's an issue that we had last night yesterday afternoon with our defensive ends getting too far upfield, and then our defensive tackles getting held up and not being able to get in their lanes. And also, we seem to have problems yesterday setting the edge and containing. There were a lot of plays that spilled outside, and we didn't have containment on it. So that's an issue as well. Not a great performance that came through when they had to. Colin Simmons had a great game in and of itself. It looked like to me I'd have to rewatch him for the entirety, but he certainly made his impact felt today. But overall, it's a C for me.
And it probably settles at a C. I got a feeling the grades are going to drop as we go back to each level of the defense. So, CJ, I'll start with you at linebacker. No Anthony Hill. And going forward, it's Anthony Hill's health, and Ty Anthony Smith is now going to miss the first half of the A&M game. But, CJ, man, Arkansas's tight ends feasted. Second level rushing yards had aplenty on Saturday. What's your grade for the linebackers?
Yeah, it's a D+. I thought it was probably the worst game of the year for the Texas linebackers. Of course, you don't have Anthony Hill. That makes a pretty significant difference. But I thought the Texas linebackers looked slow. I did, and it's going to be a concern against A&M next weekend without Ty Anthony Smith. Ty Anthony Smith for that first half as well. That can't be the issue when you're seeing crossing routes. You're trying to play man coverage, and you're not getting to the point in run support as well. Texas just felt like they were a step behind. I thought Trey Moore had a pretty tough game. And look, we've seen him at the linebacker position for quite a while now. I don't know if that was the right move this year to move him back to that second level based off of what we saw towards the back end of last year as well. But to your point, Jeff, look, they had a ton of success throwing the ball over the middle of the field. Jalen Platt, the tight end, 66 yards receiving, found the end zone as well. It's just been porous right now for the Texas linebackers recently, and that's a concern moving forward. It's a D+ for me with the linebackers.
Coach, their tight ends, Jones and Platt, combined for 148 yards on 9 catches. Some of those were late because some of those were right in the middle of the game. Not the best day we've seen from this Texas linebacker group.
No, first of all, that's not unusual for the Arkansas tight ends, by the way. They've been doing that all season. But it's a D+ for me. we weren't CJ, you just nailed it. We were a step behind, seemed like, on everything. We were a few yards shallow on our drops, not being able to get underneath routes that I feel like we should have been able, and we've been getting underneath better. Just not a good performance and a little bit scary. It's going to be really interesting to see what the report on Anthony Hill is this week. Because, if the chips fall right, we still have to have a lot of chips fall, but, we'll win over A&M. It could possibly vault us into the playoffs. And so it's going to be interesting to see. I wouldn't blame him for not playing, but at the same time, I hope he does, because we certainly need him to beat the Aggies.
Coach, I'll start with you on the secondary. And yeah, I'm with you guys. I was going to go a D on linebacker play. I think when you win the game, I won't give an F, but I was really close. But Coach, I think there's two things in the secondary. One, I think the grade for this game, which is overall probably not going to be great, but looking forward, we talked about Texas needing to make more plays on the ball. They had 7 pass breakups today. Grayson Littleton had 3 of them, and Cade Phillips had 2. Those guys have a knack for making plays on the ball. You throw in the fact of how much Jonah Williams played today. Coach, the young guys are starting to play more in the secondary, so that's a good thing going forward. But what about the grade for this one?
Well, for the first half, I had a D. For the second half, I had a B. So it evens out to a C for me. Certainly too many missed tackles in the first half. Finally, Michael Taft kind of settled in and started playing his brand of football a little bit more. But still, and again, I don't know if it's a design problem, if it's a coaching problem, if it's personnel problem. The middle of the field is our Achilles heel. It has been, and it continues to be. And again, it could be because linebackers aren't getting to the depth they need to get to. I'm not sure. I'll have to rewatch the game, but I feel like first half and second half were 2 different secondaries back there.
CJ, what say you?
Tough day for the secondary, and it was a tough day for the Texas defense in general. It was a very tough day, I thought, for Michael Taft, who I think would be the first to tell you that was not one of his best performances. They picked on him a little bit. And that, again, you look a week ahead, there's reason to think that A&M might do the same. And that's not great considering what we saw without him when he was dinged up. And now with him back, it hasn't changed a whole lot. It's a D for me in the secondary. I will say, to your point, Jeff, the ability for Texas, and we saw it Saturday night for more than maybe we've seen in a few months. Texas playing press man on the outside with Cade Phillips, playing man on man throughout the entire secondary. I just don't know if they have the guys to play legit man on man with their linebackers, with their secondary, with their safeties. It just feels like they're a tad slow there. And I thought at times they picked on the safeties, they picked on the linebackers. Cornerbacks, I liked what I saw. I liked what Cade Phillips. I think he is a solidified cornerback option for you moving forward. He should not be a guy coming off the bench at any point in 2026. That is a stud waiting to break out. And we saw glimpses of it Saturday evening. He and Grayson Littleton, you add Jonah to the mix as well. Boy, is that a special class that's loading right now. I'm optimistic about that, even despite the performance.
Yeah, I think for the secondary, I was honestly going to go like a D plus, just because the first half, again, the missed tackles continue to be an issue. But again, I'm really encouraged by the freshman class in the secondary, where it's going. Coach, as we look for grades for the defense overall, again, horrific start, settled down and made some stops in the middle of the game. Arkansas got some garbage time scores at the end when it was well out of hand. But overall, Coach, what's your grade for the defense for this one?
Well, if you give up 512 yards offense, I don't know how it can be anything above a D, maybe a D plus, just because you played better in the second half and seemed to focus in a little bit better. But I just don't know how you can give up that many points and 512 yards offense and call that a passing grade.
Yeah, CJ, I'm kind of with Coach in my snap judgments over on ontexasfootball.com. Gross is the word that I used for giving up over 500 yards and almost 6.5 per play in this one. What's your grade, CJ?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go with the C minus. It's going to be the most barely passing grade you can give. But as we talked about on the offensive side, consider the opponent. This is a very explosive offense. They've been doing this to teams, good teams, all throughout SEC play. And I know that we talk about a standard, and we've seen Texas defensively play at a very high level over the last 3 years. It didn't hold up to that. But look, To your point, Jeff, they did well holding Arkansas to field goals earlier on. They found the answer at some point in the middle of the game. The second and third quarters, they dominated. They owned the third quarter, I believe, 21-3. On top of that, you had a takeaway that immediately led to points, and you scored a defensive touchdown. So altogether, it was bad with the yards, but yards are kind of dictated by the way that your offense also plays the game. It forced Arkansas to throw the ball more as well. C-, but barely a C- for me.
Yeah, I'll just flip a coin, D+ or C- for me. I can't go more than that just because the start was horrific. Coach, special teams, again, I don't want to say special teams were a non-factor, but whatever mistakes you made kind of mitigated them a little bit, but no big plays. What was your grade for special teams in this one?
Yeah, well, I just thought it was in the B area. I mean, nothing. There wasn't really. Did we ever find out about Ryan Niblett? Did he come back in the game and at punt return?
Yeah, he came back.
I wonder why he wasn't in on the play DeAndre Moore made the mistake on bringing it out.
He did. He was on the field. It looked like Texas tried to set up they had trickery. Trickery was afoot on that one, Coach. It looked like they tried to run, one of those decoy returns where your returner runs to the sideline, your blockers run to the sideline, and you kind of sneak a few out to the left side, and DeAndre Moore runs back right before the punt is punted, and you go field it, and you surprise Arkansas. That was a poor decision. That was a terrible decision, and it's happened a couple times this year. I didn't like it. You're in the end zone when you field the punt. That should be rule number one. Inside the 5, don't touch the football. Nothing good comes from that. But I think that was what they were attempting to do there, was a little trickery.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that. I think you're probably exactly right. That makes sense to me now.
CJ, I'm kind of like C+, B- for the special teams. Coach, is it a B? Where are you?
Yeah, B-. I mean, they were there. A lot like the running game. They didn't do a whole lot. Fortunately, they weren't relied on a whole lot. Mason Shipley makes his one field goal. I thought Bomeister, he downed 2 punts inside the 10 or inside the 20, but he also shanked one that gave Arkansas some opportunities to benefit from a short field. Altogether, Arkansas didn't attempt a whole lot of kickoff returns, and they had plenty of opportunities. In Texas, they had one kickoff return that I don't think made it to the 20. So, hey, if you want to knock them, there's the knock. Probably a B- for me.
All right, as we wrap this up, Coach, I'll let you go first. One thing from this one that gives you hope Texas can beat Texas A&M on Friday, and one thing that really concerns you going into this game.
Well, to me, those are kind of obvious. Just from my perspective, I think the fact that we're involving more receivers, we're getting more targets, our tight ends are getting involved. I think that's a really good thing going into this game. Give A&M some things to look at, because we've been pretty one-sided in terms of who we're targeting on the majority of the plays. And so to show that we have other threats, and again, you have DeAndre Moore come in with 3 touchdown receptions, Parker with some good catches, some big plays. I think it's what has to happen for us to have a chance to beat A&M. The thing that keeps me up at night, of course, is our defense, in particular our secondary. But probably a bigger red flag for me is that linebacker position for this game, because we don't know who's going to be out there. We don't know if we're going to have a third-team guy out there. We don't know if we're going to have an All-American out there. And that worries me a great deal, of course. We didn't have great linebacker play today, and we're going to have great linebacker play this Friday.
CJ, same for you. Based on this one, looking ahead to A&M, one thing you love that you feel hopeful about, one thing that concerns you.
It's the play of Arch Manning in rivalry games. He's been fantastic. And I think, again, we've only seen an elevation with his play. I know the Georgia game probably didn't indicate that given the score and how that game played out, but he wasn't bad, right? He's been far from the issue for Texas. And coming off of a career night, he should be playing with a lot of confidence, a lot of poise, something that we've seen grow as the season has progressed. That's the hope, right, is that you're able to score tit for tat with A&M on Friday night in DKR. And that starts with Arch, evading pressure, finding guys downfield, using your legs. What gives me some tremors and probably some cold sweats this week while I'm sleeping leading up to Friday. You got to stop the run, man. And I didn't think it was going to be that poor of a performance from the defensive line. It hasn't been, and maybe the return of Anthony Hill stymies a little bit of that. But if A&M is able to run the football effectively behind that offensive line with those wide receivers that you still have to stick a number of guys out there to defend against, they're going to have an entire playbook to defend against, and that's going to be very difficult given what we've seen from A&M this year. Got to stop the run.
Yeah, for Texas, the goal, the focus for me has been turn the game over to your pass rush. Never really got to a point, especially in the first half, where that happened. And once it did, the numbers don't show it, but you were able to put some stops together there in the middle of the game. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Grades here on Texas Football. Got one more of these to go in the regular season, and hopefully we're talking about it after a win over Texas A&M. But that's going to put a bow on it. Texas 52, Arkansas 37. CJ, Coach, thank you guys for the knowledge and expertise as always. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you to our friends at Allegiant Digital Marketing for sponsoring it. If you're not a member, over at ontexasfootball.com. That's all right. You can get over to the site right now. Sign up using the promo code OTFOG, and that'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $39.95. Make sure that you like this video and that you subscribe to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or on the site, you're not missing any of our coverage before, during, and after every Texas game this season. For CJ, for Coach, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and until next time, hook 'em.